The Mark Hubbard Show. It's the Mark Hubbard Show.
We have one more guest that's joining us today, TashaTalkz. She will be talking about real estate. Tasha was actually one of our engineers for the show.
You can leave her backstage.
she's been with around the Mark Hubbard Show for quite some time. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, TashaTalkz. Cool. So, what would you tell someone that is considering buying or selling? What are some of the first steps that they may need to go through as it relates to real estate?
So the first thing you want to do is understand your financial profile, right? Know your credit. I advise people to go to annualcreditreport.com, grab your report, review it, check for any errors. There's chatter that says that you should dispute errors in writing versus using the online platform. That's not my wheelhouse. So I would investigate that on my own, but definitely you want to dispute anything that is erroneous. And then you want to go ahead and eliminate any unnecessary debt, right? So things that don't make any sense. So I made the poor mistake of working at Carson's. To get my discount, they gave me a Carson's card. This was an incredibly poor decision. When it was supposed to be a second gig to make some money. This was many years ago. Obviously, Carson's is closed. So things like that, things that are not necessary, pay them down. You may not want to cut them up because or close them, because that can impact your credit score. But then what I used to do is take those cards and put them in a cup, fill it with water, stick it in the freezer. So now before I make a decision, do I really want these new sheets from Carson's, or am I just reading emails? So I still have access to the card, but by the time it paused, do I really want that? Was that an impulsive buy? I see your face, Mark, but whatever you got to do to discipline yourself. Some people can just keep them in their wallet or their purse. That wasn't my story. I like shoes. So again, you want to set yourself in the best financial situation. Then you want to make sure that you're saving money, right? So in the middle of a pandemic, it's tough for everybody, right? People have lost their positions. People have had to take pay cuts, whatever those situations look like. But do whatever you can to save whatever you can. So there are apps out there like Digit that automatically saves. If your job has the option for you to split your check direct deposit, where you can send, some of it to your checking, some to save, and some to something else, do that so that you don't see that money and you begin to get used to living without it, right? Okay. And then you want to think about what you might be comfortable paying monthly. So let's say you are a renter and you spend maybe $1,500 a month in rent, right? Your mortgage is typically not going to be that high. But what happened is, let's say you get a really good deal and your mortgage is $1,000. So most people think, ooh, I've got another $500 to play with. No. You've got another $500 to stash in savings, because in a rental situation, your landlord is taking care of emergencies. But guess what happens to you if that furnace breaks? You're responsible. So you want to take that $500 and stash it, right? So you're thinking about what you're comfortable doing every month, okay? And so then after that, you'll find a lender that you're comfortable with. When I'm talking to clients, I ask them to start with their financial institution, whether that's their bank or their credit union, or maybe they know lenders on their own. I do give recommendations, but I want to note that they are never under any obligation to pick anyone that I've introduced them to. Please choose for yourself and make the best decision possible. No pressure from me. And then once you get with that lender is going to pre-approve you. He or she is going to tell you what you qualify for. And listen, if you're secretive, you're not wanting to buy property because they want to know all your business. They going back and they looking at, well, this check was this much. Where did this check come from? How did you suddenly get a $25,000 deposit? Be ready to explain those kinds of things. And while people are like, they're nosy, yeah, but you're asking them to give you $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 on your word. You better answer their questions. You know what I'm saying? So they'll pre-approve you. They'll tell you how much you qualify for, and make sure they outline for you what you can afford to pay in tax. So Aisha just, kind of piggybacked in the comments on what I said. Don't hold secrets from your lender or your realtor. I need to know your entire financial situation so that I can advocate for you. If you had a bankruptcy, I need to be able to explain it and say, look, this happened. My dog died. My mother got put in a nursing home and I had to move in with it. Whatever the situation is, I need to be able to explain it to someone when there are multiple deals on the table, right? But anyway, once you know what you can afford, including taxes, that's the point I was getting ready to make before a couple of y'all got in trouble, apparently.
Whoa. They weren't paying attention.
Look like they was finna get a whooping. I'm like, what happened? You want to make sure that you can afford the taxes. So you may find a home in the price range, but then the taxes are $8,000, more than you wanted to pay. You have to be able to afford that, including your insurance. So you'll talk with the lender, you'll find the situation that works best for you, and then you'll go to your realtor with the information you got from your lender, and then we'll begin to talk about what preferences you have, where you want to live, what are non-negotiables for you. I know that when I was a little girl, I remember my mother always saying, nope, you want a brick house. That's just her preference. She passed it down to me. I got a brick house. But other people don't mind. Me, I couldn't do townhouse living. I don't like people like that. I love people, but I don't like people like that. So I need, all my space. I don't want to hear what's going on next to you or in the that's not for me. So you know what your preferences are and what works well for you. And so that's what you want to then discuss with your realtor. And then you start the process of looking. Yep.
All right. That's a lot of great information. Mark, go ahead.
So I have a serious question for you, which is not often. Let me ask you this question. Would you recommend to people to make sure they prepare to either buy a house or a condo or a townhouse? Because I see a lot of people who buy houses, but they're not prepared for it because they once I bought this lovely home, and what they fail to realize is that it's not like your apartment, like a condo when there's associations. You got to fix everything in there on your own. So it's not like you can, pay your association and then somebody come and buy it. So would you recommend people when they're looking for a property or looking to buy to make your phone ringing? So, I know who phone it is, but listen. So would you recommend to people? I mean, is there some type of recommendation that should be given to people? Because I think a lot of people really do that. Seriously, they don't know what they're actually getting themselves into. Because again, it's a difference between buying a house, a condo, and a townhouse. Because again, you got association.
Moving from renting to home ownership is a difference too.
Absolutely. That was kind of what I touched on when I talked about thinking about what you're comfortable in paying. Because it's not that you keep that extra money. Now that your your living expenses have gone down as it relates to the shelter part of your living expenses. You take the rest of that money you were paying in rent and you stack it because, like I said, the furnace goes out, the stove goes out. I had a carbon monoxide scare in the middle of the night one day. I had to be able to replace my stove because when the entire fire department got here, it was the stove. I had to be ready for that. As it relates to condos and townhomes with homeowners associations, that's also very important. You have to understand what it is you're walking into. So if you buy a property that is part of an HOA, a homeowners association, they have rules. And if your realtor is worth anything, they're going to say, before we make an offer on this property, let's read these rules. Let's make sure you understand what you're getting into. Because I've seen a lot of people get really upset with an HOA because they're not allowed to build a fence or put a swimming pool or an inflatable pool somewhere. And it's like,
they can have curtains.
Right. You can't do whatever those rules are. Hey, it was absolutely in the HOA documents and you still made a move on this property. Please read everything and please ensure you understand. Now, some people don't like the idea of doing their own yard work. So when I first bought my house, I failed to pay attention that this wonderful driveway would need to be plowed every winter. And so I spent so much money the first year because it snowed that I could have just bought me a snowblower. I did eventually go get one. But if you're not the kind of person who wants to do the outdoor maintenance, then maybe a place with an HOA is for you, right? It just depends on your preferences, but you have to understand what it is you're getting into. And Aisha just commented, read your documents. They're your documents. You put your name on this document that says, I'm taking a mortgage out on this property. It is about you, and use your attorney. If you're not sure, you definitely want to invest in a real estate attorney. You want to invest in having a home inspection, not one that's provided by the seller. I mean, that's nice if they want to do that, but then whose interests are they representing? Get your own. And you want to ensure that you're comfortable with what happened. And so as an example, so I got my house. Y'all know, y'all were there when I was going through my whole life change. I was going through a divorce, right? Mm-hmm. And so my home inspection noted that while my furnace and hot water heater were working fine, they were also about 25 years old, right? So they work now, but tomorrow they may die. So I had to know that going in. What my realtor was able to do, and she's a friend of mine. She's actually the reason me and Aisha ended up in the bit. Well, I got in the business, and then it's like, hey, Aisha, we should do this. But anyway, we were able to then negotiate based on the things that were not up to par in the house, and came out good. Bless God.
Now Hector was he worked for the city of Chicago with property taxes at one time.
Yes,
I'm not sure if he still does, but he made some good.
He made a comment. Apparently, he knows something.
He made a good point. Make sure you know who's paying the property taxes. Is that your responsibility, or is that included in your escrow as part of your mortgage?
So you can do that. So some people like to pay their taxes outright. That's not the way I do it. I include mine and wrap it up in my mortgage. It's really a matter of preference. I know some people who say, no, it comes out cheaper for me if I just pay the taxes outright. That's fine. Whatever works for you works. Just know who you are and be realistic with yourself. If you're not good with money, you can't be late on taxes. You'll look up and want on your house and have your feelings hurt. And that's not what you want. That is not what you want. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're not paying attention. So if you're one of these people, back to what Mark was saying, as far as the responsibilities of owning a home, if you're one of these people who don't like to read documents, don't stay on top of your mail, don't stay on top of your email, maybe you should continue renting. Because, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's going to bite you in the butt, and it will end up costing you more. Now, I know I just shoved some business away from me, but that's okay. I would rather you be in a good position. Like, this business is about being ethical. So I don't want your business if I know in 3 years you're going to lose your house.
Because a lot of people, they get excited. They seriously get excited, but they don't. And because, and let's be honest, half of the people, 90% of the people don't want to read that document, those papers. It's just like, I don't understand what I'm reading here. This is just a whole bunch of, I'm going to trust you and I'm just going to sign. No, you can't do that.
Your name is on it. At the end of the day, the building inspector, the home inspector goes home. It's you. Do you have some recourse? Sure, maybe. But if it's something that you just plain old overlook, you're going to get your feelings hurt. And that's not what we want.
Yep. So great conversation. And where can people go to connect with you? They're in the process of looking or want to sell. How can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm Tasha Clopton with Keller Williams Preferred. We're out of the Orland Park office. Yay, look at that. There's everything on the site. You can that's my email address, tclopton@kw.com. You can reach me at 708-858-0387. And you can also hit me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, TashaTalkz Real Estate, talks with a Z. So TashaTalkz Real Estate on Instagram. And I'd be happy to help you. And look, sometimes we get to interviewing each other and we decide we aren't the best fit. Then I'll just, see if you fit with my colleague Aisha, because that may work out better. It is a relationship, and not every relationship is meant to be long term. So we definitely have a network of people. And then the other thing is, Keller Williams is a national realty agency. So if you're looking to move out of Illinois. I can't service you outside of Illinois, but I have colleagues in other states who can. Yep.
Awesome. Tasha, thank you for joining us.
I miss y'all.
Miss you too.